going, everybody? It's Krusty Old Crow back again with another edition of the Tactical Perspective toy review of the G.I.Joe Classified Series 6-inch line by Hasbro. It's the ones we remembered from the 80s, re-envisioned for a new generation of young Joes and recruits, while still simultaneously talking to those new Joes' parents and saying, you're the ones that can afford it. And honestly, guys, it's no secret. Every episode I talk about just how smitten I am with these, and I'm not going to keep dwelling it. I am your host, the Krusty Old Crow, otherwise known as Ryan, a retired Canadian Forces soldier from the Armored Corps, and who did his time in Armored Reconnaissance, and has since decided that qualifies him to have a critique on toys. I should also let you guys know that I'm also an ex-comic book nerd and pop culture nerd and an artist, and I have a lot of ideas running around in my head. That's why a lot of these times I do the toy review channel, and then I also have some conversion stuff that I show from time to time. And today I'm going to talk about another thing I've ventured on, but first we're going to focus on part 2 of my mini series within this that addresses animal companions. Last episode I did Snake Eyes with Timber, and see, I'm trying to catch all those thes and uhs. I'm terrible at this, but I did that review on Snake Eyes and Timber, which I did think set the bar as far as animal companion packages. It is probably one of the finer sets you're gonna get, and you will see Cobra's equivalent of this is Crocmaster with Fiona, an equally good set from every criticism I've seen on that, and I do plan on getting it and run my own critique on it. I actually do have a line of where you can pick these up in sale in Ottawa. If you're looking for a Crocmaster currently, I'm pretty sure one of the big box toy stores in Canada currently has it on clearance. But that's not the one we're talking about today. We're doing the part 2, and of course I'm going to talk about one of my personal the figures that I'm most impressed with, how they handled this figure, and it wasn't one of my most favorite in the 80s, and I did have this figure. I am talking about Spirit Iron Knife, who, as you know, comes and should have mention on here with his companion, the Eagle Freedom. The box is a older box. This was number 36 in the series before they went to a no plastic box, which I hear they're going back to. Number 36, and you can see that the cover art on this one definitely has that First Nations feel to it. And I commend them for embracing that, and I really do hope that is a First Nations artist of some sort that did this design. I think that would be the right way to go with it. And I can't believe they would go any other way with it, considering they printed it. I was partial to this box. It's not my style of art, but I find it's a good snapshot of other artistic styles, especially here in Canada. Our First Nations culture is very embraced, and seeing their art displayed really shows how much we value them at all times. So you have the box and with the plastic covering, and then in the back you can see the Joe logo on the side, more of that art, and then on this side, number 36. And of course the PCF set. Go online onto Hasbro.com. You can look these up and they'll tell you what this Joe's primary combat function is. All right, so enough about the box. We don't need to dwell on the mural on the box. We know this is an ever-changing piece of art. I only gently threw that somewhere I wanted it because I do keep these boxes. I don't know why I felt like that. Maybe watching a certain other reviewer throw things around starts to affect things. So guys, one of the things before I get into the review, just a quick snapshot how I do them. Being ex-military, it is a head-to-toe inspection. I will point out the things I appreciate about the figure, the details I think they captured, and maybe some nuances that I see here and there that I want to discuss a little bit or draw some extra attention to. Maybe I feel like they're easily overlooked, or maybe I've watched someone talk about them or heard of someone and they didn't quite know what function they had. Either way, if I'm capable of explaining something with my experience, I do. And then at the end of the video, I give it a tactical grade and a playability grade. Tactical grade based on whether I think this guy's ready to roll out onto the front line and do his job, or whether I think he's coming ill prepared. One of the things I should mention is back when I did the bazooka review and I gave him that high tactical grade, that was based off the idea that he was a defensive support weapon position. I wouldn't let him go out on patrol without having at least a secondary weapon should he run out of those 4 rounds with his bazooka. He needs to be able to defend himself and support his team. So enough ad-lib about him. I tell you a funny thing I did today, guys. As I am retired in the military and I kind of miss doing things, and I've always wanted to just see if my time that I spent getting ready for an arts career that never happened, is well spent. I actually dropped a resume off online with Hasbro because I'd like to talk to them about maybe if they have a position for somebody with the military experience to work on some of these teams, to work on a level of detail that maybe they want with the figures, or some consultant work, things like that. Hell, I'll even design characters. I'm currently working on how I would present Flash if I were a designer, where I would want to incorporate designs. This is the very first sketch I was just diddling with just for fun, but it's going to grow into something that I would consider it padding a resume. I will keep poking at Hasbro. I just tried it today, just dropping a resume off in the stay in contact pool. I'm hoping there's a page where they let you talk to them and tell them what you're about, and just see if there's an interest. But if there's anybody watching from Hasbro, give me a shout. Very interested. I'm having a great time with this line. So enough self-promoting and senseless plugging that'll probably go nowhere. Guys, I'm just a big sharer these days. Isn't that refreshing? Do you remember the time when you were a Joe fan and right around puberty and you started getting into girls? You weren't sharing as much of this interest in the social culture fabric, whatnot, as you hit that certain age. Isn't it nice to be able to go back and do that openly and say, hey man, I didn't just like this shit, I love this stuff. But enough promoting. You guys didn't come here to see me. You came here to see Spirit Iron Knife. So let's have a look at him over at the fob here. I had to work on where to display him, but you know, with Freedom sitting behind him, he takes up a lot of room. So we needed some clearance. Oops, let's get that going. And see if that'll come into focus. Oh my, I apologize for the camera work. I clearly was not prepared for a certain angle here. So there we go. That's better, I think. In the background, you heard I was listening to some Canadian artists, as I always do on my show. I'll turn them off now because I honestly didn't mean to keep them going that long. But that was Arcade Fire out of Montreal, Quebec, another great band out there in the rock scene. So guys, this is your Spirit Iron Knife figurine. Again, number 36 in the series, and one of those ones that I couldn't believe how quickly I was taken with this and was convinced. This was actually one of the earlier Joes I bought. I bought it right after Stalker and a couple other reconnaissance favorites because they did such a fantastic job with this figurine. Just looking up close, I mean, from head to toe, you've got everything you would like to have with a, I would say, seemingly perfect First Nations tracker. And that's what he brings to the table. He is the Joe tracker. He is the eagle eye, the scouts, the eyes on the situation. Again, not having grown up with the cartoon, not having read too many of the comics after the 80s, what this guy brought to the table was this air of earthy mysticism, not mysticism, that's overstating his spirituality, but a connectiveness to nature that camouflage wasn't hitting. This guy, you know, he was loaded out. He had the eagle. I think in the 80s, they gave him a weapon that actually fired bolts or arrows. And I know, I can get why they stepped away with that. In today's culture, it's not the most sensible option as a weapons choice, but he always just was very rooted in what you would expect in a woodland fighter, right? Or a woodland presence for the Joes. And that was, they nailed it. So I had him as a child, and I wasn't overly impressed. In fact, I think at those times things were becoming more rigid with the weapons that they were giving. The plastic had changed from a more malleable plastic to a more hard plastic. And if I recall right, his dart throwing gun actually had a hand grip that was very round and hard in his grip, and I was very concerned about breaking his thumb, which was a trend with some Joes. If you force things too hard, their thumbs would break off and they couldn't hold them. This is an issue they've solved with the new hands and the plastics they're using. You're not going to snap a thumb off by trying to work a weapon in as easily as you did in the 80s. Maybe if you were playing with these in the North Pole outside and trying to smash weapons into their hands, something's going to give. But for your everyday collector, these are just perfect as they are. Okay, so from the head to toe, guys, and I'm going to, of course, talk about our friend Freedom afterwards. If you want to have a look closer at his head, you can see that they've done just an excellent job with that First Nation skin tone and sculpt. He's got that knowing 1,000-yard stare, like he sees something 2 clicks out on this side of that hill, and he's gonna track that to the opportunity of his choosing. He's very, very excellent and intricate detail to that face sculpt, and the hair flows beautifully. They didn't overdo the hairstyle or underdo it, right? So we all know, especially us Canadians, our First Nations and their hair is it's a right to them. It's very tied to their culture and their who they are as a person. So we don't force any to cut their hair when they join the military. And it's very easy for the stereotypes to let you think that it gets out of control. It doesn't. This is a very conservative way for him to have worn his hair, and I think the sculpt was beautiful, giving him the 2 side braids, knowing that a long individual braid might obstruct a little bit from the backpack, and it might look funny if you leave it too short. But the 2 side braids, they don't interfere with that head movement, which is just brilliant. They are that softer material, and he's even got some of his bangs hanging down for that, that windblown, I've been working effect. And I thought the head sculpt was brilliant. The red headband contrasts well against the blue work shirt. I don't know what tribe or what nation he is. I imagine he's one of the ones in the Dakotas somewhere. But I don't suspect he's a Canadian. It's First Nations bloodline there. But I don't know. I don't speculate, guys. So the head, again, perfect, great sculpt. And I don't use the word perfect sparingly, I'm not using the word perfect, I think, without conscious to what it means. But I do think if you're looking for a Joe that they did the head sculpt 100%, I think you're finding it with Spirit Iron Knife above all others. There is just something about that face sculpt that draws you in and says, I need this in my collection. The torso articulation is another great plus for this figurine. Again, we're going to take the backpack and Freedom off. I'm going to show you again. You've heard me talk before about how pins have to line up for backpacks to work on the ones that wear a lot of vests and webbing and tactical gear on their chests. That causes them to have a secondary hole that needs to line up with the primary, and then your backpack doesn't fit as well when you start getting into the waistline and sternum line flexibility, and you don't have that issue with this one, right? So it lines up no matter what pose he's in, you'll be able to get them. These bases you see me using, I just picked these up at the game stores. They are not inherent to the figures. They don't come with them. Hasbro isn't going that way. Basically, every ounce of plastic that you're going to pay for is going to be a detail in the figure and not necessarily something meant to display them per se, right? Diorama pieces and set design stuff and things like that. Animals are one thing. Special equipment like a drone for scrap iron. That's another thing. But if you start getting into bases and things like that, guys, we're gonna reach a cost that we don't want to be at. So the torso, again, he's got that blue shirt. It looks like he's got a red t-shirt under there, which contrast, like which brackets his face very well against that headband. And lends just the right amount of contrast to that blue shirt again. And he's got that cross the chest knife sheath on one side. He's got his Joe communicator on that right shoulder. And he's got 2 different types of grenades on here. God bless him. I love them. It looks like you've got a smoke grenade or perhaps a white phosphorus trip flare style grenade right here on this side. Let me get my trusty pointer. I've made a big deal about grenades before in past videos, and here I go again on my own. Ba-da-ba, right? So here you go. You got your long cylindrical grenade. All right. So a long cylindrical grenade is usually, when I've seen them, they can be things like a white phosphorus trip flare, like I had mentioned, where you set that on in a bracket on a tree connected to a wire, and they trip it, and it goes off and burns under its own self-oxidizing flame, and everybody knows somebody tripped your flare. It could also be perhaps a smoke grenade, which would be perfectly logical that, you know, we use colored smokes to denote different things on the battlefield. One's for a hasty landing site for a helicopter. Another might be just for call for fire for artillery or extraction, what have you. You guys all seen the movies. You know how it goes. But then you've got that circular grenade right there, and that is definitely going to be a fragmentation type grenade with the complete different intent behind that from the grenade that's sitting beside that. Gentlemen and ladies, I love it when they're doing it right, and that's one thing they did right. Give them a couple types of grenades. You don't have to overload them. There's no need to overload these things with too many details over here. No matter what I say about details I'd like to be incorporated or whatnot, the detail level that they're putting into these is bang on. Good job, Hasbro. Loving it. Okay, my favorite feature on this chest, besides the grenades, I'm going to move over to this knife. Look at that buckskin sheath or leather hide sheath with the tassels, very First Nations feel. If you get a good look there, you can see that. I'm gonna paint this at some point, but I'm kind of torn. It's a bird skull, guys. I think it's a crow skull or a raven skull of some sort, and I either gonna do that up with bone and leather handle, or I'm going to make it metal, like he dipped it in something to keep it, because the bird skull is naturally fragile. I can't see that making a good knife hilt. Maybe I'll make it look like it's carved out of wood, like one piece wood here. That would look cool too. But either way, it's a great sculpt for a knife. What a great custom individual piece for a character like this. And guys, look at that blade. That's like, you watch those guys who eat tomahawk steaks up on the mountain, you know, living out of their backpack, and you know, they just kill the fish and they're doing it up on a fire. This is the kind of knife they're chopping up that food and doing all that stuff with. Like, just a brilliant. I wish the camera and lighting would work together for better close-up shots, but let's see. You can see it as I get it further out. I hope that's enough to satisfy it, guys. I do. I'm sorry that my camera work is not stellar, but that is just a fantastic little blade for him to be carrying around. Great homage to the character. It makes sense. It makes absolute sense. And I love the placement of it. It's not restrictive or anything like that. If we go below that, you see that he does have a couple of belts on the go, like a dual belt system on the go that you can adjust around up and down to make his hip flexibility available more. Okay. And then he's got that First Nations belt, right? A very Western feel to that. And I love how it just stands off right up against that blackened military clip style belt with all the pouches. You know, it's like full tactical warfare and then a little homeschool stank on it. You know what I mean? And that really sets the vibe for this character. It just continues to impress. As you move over to the arms, let's go there first before we go down the back and then down the pants. I'm sorry. We are not going down the pants in the way that that's usually said. we are going to go and inspect the pants, of course. Anyway, so if you look over, he's got that tomahawk patch on his right shoulder, right, with the feathers coming off the upper right side of it, and the tomahawks looking downward. That's cool. Not sure what it represents, if there's a chapter out there that uses that or anything like that, or a division, but it's awesome. And then you can see he holds the rank of a sergeant. All right, the pants. I commend Hasbro for knowing when a good opportunity is there to keep the color palette fresh. All right, so Joes have a wide range of colors, but you always try to come back to a tactical color for them because they are soldiers. This guy looks more like a park ranger or a government deity than a soldier per se, as a part of a military. You know, and when you start thinking about what kind of jobs a guy who uses a bird might have, you think falconer, which, you know, some airports, I don't know if they still use them to this day, but falconers would go out with their falcon and hunt birds so that planes don't have obstruction hazards with flocks of birds near the airports. I could see this being along that line, and then you've got that national parksman kind of feel to this figure, which I love. I love that they did that. It's it wouldn't work with many other figures, but a tracker like this guy, it just works, right? Of course, this is how they did it in the 80s, but there was something about the way they did it in the 80s. It just felt so fake and underwhelming to me. Maybe it was just the details weren't there enough to explain how common and uniformed his design actually was. It more felt like, what's the word? Just an empty attempt at trying to throw more colors into Joe. So here they've done it really well, I think. Maybe I'm just remembering it differently in my childhood, but guys, you are always free to disagree with my opinions. That's all they are, just opinions. He's got the 2 pins knee set, how they do that. They, you know, connector pin, and then you've got your bracket piece. And then he's got it looks like they're pants. I kind of wish, again, I would know, you know, these could be knee pads. It's hard to tell. The texture of the pants is seen throughout the pants. You see how it's like got that texture design, but then they smooth the knees, and I'm not sure if that's because it's a knee pad that's meant to be a separate piece, or if it's meant to be a part of the stitched in padding of the pants. But I feel like an offset color might help, like just a different tone of brown or something might alleviate some of that confusion. But overall, love those pants. His boots, he's got a bit of both worlds in the boot compromise for me. You guys know by now I'm a big fan of the stitch, the lacing boot. And then he's got plenty of lacing on his boot. But he's also got a leather top guard for his shins, which is good. He's doing a lot of climbing and things like that, and rugged ground tracking. He might even go through some marshlands. He might need that extra protection to keep things from going into his boots, even bugs. So I can buy into it. Love those boots. Love the pants. I like the fact that he's wearing the brown tactical gloves. If you wanted to have a closer look, you can see that they've got the padding and they've got the knuckle protection. They are full finger gloves, and I'm kind of hoping that Joe gets around to doing some half gloves, which I'm used to seeing a lot of for our arid climate. Like I know we're not supposed to cut the fingers off our gloves, but sometimes you want that free trigger finger, and some guys do choose that stuff. I hope we get a couple of Joes that do that in the future. I love how they have that. They've incorporated a little button for your rolled up sleeves. And that is a very military uniformity thing. If we are going to allow you to do it, it's probably designed into the clothes. There you go. It is. You're free to do that. I wasn't a big fan of this gold bracelet, but, it might be just some personal swag. And in this case, I'm not, considering he's in his blue and tan, I'm not overly worried about glint and glare, and maybe he's not trying to be the most stealthy. He's just tracking, right? So no tactical penalty for having shiny things on this guy, I guess. And then on his other wrist, if you look here, we're going to show you how this operates, but he's got that leather padded gauntlet, and that is exactly what you would expect it to be, but you can see that they've had to bore a hole through it to get that pin set in there, and they never patch it, which I thought was interesting. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or if they did it intentionally, but I thought it was kind of interesting. And even as far as the level of details, guys, you want to know how good they get? Look at those elbows. Pardon me while the camera shakes. You see all that worn out? Like, those are realistic looking elbows, guys. This guy's definitely older than 33. You know what I mean? He's got wrinkly elbows. That's awesome. Old wrinkly elbows. But anyways, this gauntlet thing is clearly exactly what you thought it is. It is a place for Freedom to also land should you not want him to be on the backpack. He uses feet posts to go in as such, and you just press it down and work it on. And you got Freedom on the arm. It's not my favorite spot for it unless I'm working a specific pose for it that I'm trying to get on there, but it's nice they gave you another place to do it. On the hip, you see he's got his service pistol holster. I love the hard holster. It's a hardened design with those nice clips on there. Very realistic. Joe nails the holsters sometimes. And then he's got his he's got a very custom design pistol, but it's very hard to see. I am gonna have to shine that out with some graphite of some sort, or some sort of highlighting metal, maybe even a bit of silver or gold. I don't know. But there is a wing on that pistol that you're looking at. It goes from the back to the muzzle. The wing starts here and ends over here. It's very difficult to see in certain light, but it's a very nice detail on there, and we need to make that pop. So that's going to be a future project to me. I'm going to make that pop because that needs to be seen. And then he's got another knife, and lucky, there's another blackened survival blade. Oh, thank you, Joe, for throwing the odd one of those in there. I love it. And I love that hilt. You know, it's very easy to just do any kind of hilt, but this one, they, what's the wording here? If you guys can see that, it's separated. It's got its ribbing or whatever design, leather strapping design there, and on this side. And then you can see where the metal piece would break that up. So another great knife on a overall stellar figure. His hunting rifle. We're going to talk about this for a second. I freaking love it, but there is some criticisms on it from other reviewers that I've seen that are justifiable. And we'll talk about something called eye relief, all right? Yeah, you know what, Spirit? We are going to try and get you to stand up while I talk about your gun, but here we go. Okay. So great piece for any Joe, really, especially the sharpshooter group. But you know, it's got the removable mag again. It's got that beautiful hunting scope on there, some wood grain color on there. I kind of wish they had done a different color padding there, but you guys, like me, if you want a conversion, stop complaining and just do it, right? So I'll probably end up painting that at some level. But what guys are kind of addressing in their criticisms about that is just eye relief. So eye relief is the distance between his shooting eye, which for him on this is his right eye, and where this scope's eyepiece is set to give him sight picture down it, right? So some of the criticisms is that if you get the rifle butt into the shoulder as a proper firing position, you can do that, but then you don't have proper eye relief. You can see how his head is actually past where he can look into that scope. So that's one of the criticisms they have about Spirit's weapon, is just that the scope is set to the wrong eye relief for the butt stock. Is that ruining all the poses for you? No, but it is going to affect ones where you think he's got somebody dead in his sights. The justification is, guys, is if he's looking dead over his sights like this, all right, and again, a little bit of imagination on this and a little bit of tactical thought, but I don't have much hunting rifle experience, and I don't think it would make sense that he would have a battle sight on his hunting rifle. But when you see guys looking over their sights and not in their sights with the Joe weapons, a lot of the times what it is they have a small post setting on the top of the sight that you don't even really see. It's almost like a nub, or they're doing that and they're lining it up with their front muzzle, and it's called a quick battle sight for under 200. It's quick. It's like 50 meters, 100 quick battle sight, and it means you don't have to put your eye in the sight. You're just lining your body shooting, and that's the alignment. If you did. Does that look bad? I don't think that looks bad. Is it logical? Is it really happening? Does he have a battle sight? Probably not. But I think it looks okay. But yeah, I do agree with some of the critics. Eye relief recognition in these weapons, if you're putting that kind of level into the sighting system of the weapon and how it sits on that Joe, you need to tilt that head down into the sight and ask yourself, can he see that? Beyond that, that's a learn, and I bet you anything, they've heard this criticism a couple times about Spirit, and they're probably working on the next figure. I don't think you're going to see that problem with somebody like maybe Low Light or Shooter. Hopefully, maybe even Tunnel Rat will have this corrected. I don't know, but it's a small criticism for such a great figure. All right, last parts, we're going to look at the backpack. Now, this one was, I like the design of the backpack. It's got a wooden, like it's got a post for the bird to sit on, right? As so, just like with the wrist, and you can put him on his back, and that all makes perfect sense. I don't mind the backpack. I like the details of the pouches. The posts are there so you could put the trigger housing put that through the trigger housing, and you can mount his rifle. Which is fine for storability. I don't know of any rifle system where I've ever pushed my trigger up against a post, but, it's a detail for playability, not for tactability, right? And we all love it. It's good. It's good. All right. So moving on. The backpack. It's not my favorite backpack. It's not the worst. Yeah. The post, when the bird isn't on it, the post almost ruins the backpack for me. You know what I mean? Like, no eagle. I don't want the post. I wish the post could be removed so that you weren't seeing it, because it just looks like a blank post with inexplicable holes. But whatever. Most times when I'm looking at them, I don't even have the backpack on it. I've got it off on the kit locker or somewhere nearby, right? So it's not a big deal. Overall, guys, if we were to get into the playability grade of this figure. Oh, one thing I forgot to talk about. We got to get to the animal companion. You can see that full range of motion with these wings, and then that's exactly how they come off. 1 and 2. And now he's almost a dinner of sorts for whatever diorama you want, guys. It's your toy. You do what you want with it, but anyways, he comes with alternate wings, and I'm just trying to find it where that other wing slipped down to. There it is. And we're going to just show you how that other wing set goes on. So the way the shoulder on the bird, right? So boom. And boom. And now you have a paused and landed eagle, Freedom, with a fully articulate beak and head area, and the legs do move, and you can splay the feet out a little bit if you want to come up with your own mounts for this thing. And it's all good, boys and girls. The paint job was pretty good. I just noticed mine has a small chip on the beak that I recognized was when I got it out of the box, it was like that. I'm not sure how that happened, but I'm not complaining. It's a minor flaw. I can live with it. Quite honestly, as far as companions go, I think having an eagle service animal companion is probably up there on one of the coolest. It's right below having tigers and bears, but it's so American, and as a Canadian, I have to point it out, but what are you going to do? Okay, so playability grade, I'm going with a definite A+ on the playability, despite the one issue with the sight retention for the pose. I think they've given us a very cool figure, and he looks great next to any other Joe. And especially in a group of 5 where they're all wearing green, he fits in beautifully with it to offset everybody. That's just my personal opinion. Tactical, I'm gonna go with a. You know what? He's loaded for bear. He's got clips in his bag. He's got enough gear, and he's got a sidearm to protect himself for close quarters, and he's got 2 fighting knives, which just lends to some great scenery with this guy. If you want to do some close combat, knife fighting poses with them, he's ready. You're ready for him. He's ready for you. Do it. So I'm gonna go with an A+ on the tactical again. Just because I like all that. Actually, no, call it an A, because the eye relief on the scope and the hilt on the knife being a bird skull. Yeah, you know what? I can't throw too much sugar up this guy's sunshine hole, because he'll get crusty about it. You gotta keep it real with these guys. It's not an A+, it's an A and just an A. And that look he's giving me tells me he accepts my grade. So that's it for that review today, guys. On Spirit Iron Knife and his Bird Freedom, I'm gonna call that done for the animal set for now, until I do get my hands on Shipwreck and I get my hands on Croc Master with Fiona. Then maybe we'll come back. I'm apprehensive to do an animal review on Shipwreck. I feel like doing a parrot's gonna lackluster, and it's a little on the nose. We might just wait right till Croc Master, but nonetheless, thanks for sticking with it, guys. Thanks for being here today. If you like that video, praise plus like. If you like the video, please press like. If you really like it, please press subscribe. If you hated it, you can tell me in the comments, or you can not. But if you did have things you want to talk about, or comments or memories that you want to share, discussions you want to get going, cast it on out there in the comments section. I will nibble. And, are we having fun? I'm having fun, guys. That's all I'm doing. And I applied, I dropped the resume off with Hasbro. And yeah, I'm drawing Joes, but my God, guys, does it ever feel good to revisit this stuff? It's so much fun. Thanks for being a part of it. We'll see you next time.